Well, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Real Hope Conversations. I'm your host, Abby McFarlane. And guys, Christmas is upon us. And I can't think of a better way than to start thinking about Christmas, than to start talking about the Christmas carols and songs that we sing in this season of celebration and thanksgiving of the saving grace we have received through the birth of our Saviour King. And I don't know anyone else better to talk to me about Christmas carols than my dear friend, Katie Smith, who is joining me. We have sung many a Christmas carol, Katie, over the last number of years we've known each other. Some, 20,
The 90s?
20 years, Katie.
I know, a long time. And you're so right. We have sung many, many Christmas carols inside and beyond December.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. We're not limited by a Christmas season.
No, we're not. And we've led Christmas carols together in church. And this actually is a conversation that I know we've had previously about the words that we sing and the importance of them and focusing on them, because I think it's so easy to sing a song, particularly Christmas carols, that we all know and love and listen to on repeat throughout this season, that we forget or we don't connect with what we're singing or saying. And so I'm so excited to talk to you about this. But first and foremost, before we dive into the deep, I have to ask, favorite Christmas carol?
Short and sweet question and answer. Oh Holy Night is definitely my favorite.
I'm with you. There's something about it, right? A weary world rejoicing.
Yeah, I was thinking about it today, actually, this morning, and really thinking, well, why? Is it because the melody is so beautiful and pure and just sweet and so much like a lullaby, I think? So it lulls you into that sweet space where you can just hear, the, I guess the specialness is the word I want to say, of what we're celebrating together. And it is that line, though, the weary world rejoicing, because everyone relates that, right?
Yeah.
Like the thrill of hope. We all know that we get excited about Christmas, maybe not about the queues and the shopping and the traffic and the thousands of diary events you have in your calendar, but there is that thrill of hope, of the joy of sharing something really precious and good with those we love. And at the same time, you holding together the tension of, but we're all tired and we're busy. And how do we hold those two things together? Well, the only way we can hold thrill and weariness together is in God's strength, right?
Yeah.
And is in the fact that He's given us something that answers both of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because it's so true, right? We get to the end, because it's the end of the year too. It's not just weariness from the season, it's weariness from the year. And so to be taking time is something that's really precious about this song. I feel like whenever I sing it, I do pause to ponder. I feel like it brings me into that presence, takes me on a journey to meet with God through the lyrics of the song, which is why lyrics and music is something that I know we both love and connect with, particularly when it comes to our relationship with God and our communion with God on a regular basis. For you, what role does Christmas carols play in your Christmas season?
Well, I think, as you said in the introduction, there's something about the Christmas carols which gives us a chance together, which is one of the really, really significant things about Christmas carols, to express the joy and hope we have in Jesus. And yes, we absolutely do that every week at church in whatever songs we're singing together. But this one's a particular kind of joy, because it's that particular joy we're remembering this is where God has put His plan that He's always had, but this is where we remember and we thank Him for putting His plan into action to make it possible for us to have this relationship.
Mm.
And it is, I mean, I know a lot of people would celebrate Christmas now and have maybe different thoughts about what they're celebrating and why it's so special. But for me, I'm still thankful that they're stopping. And so I'm still thankful when I walk through the shops and I hear Christmas carols sung and I see people singing along with them and talking about Jesus and how sweet it is that God has given us this great blessing and that we should stop and pay attention and sing glory to Him, even if they don't yet understand the full magnitude of what they're singing about. Because it
Yeah.
is a point in our calendar as well, as His creation, where we do stop and sing His glorious praise with or without realizing what we're singing. And so there's something amazing in that, in seeing God stop and getting everyone to rejoice together and acknowledge who He is. And then there's that next level as well of just complete thankfulness that I get to sing these carols alongside my brothers and sisters in every nation of the world, because we're all acknowledging that Jesus is King and that God has given us His Son. And that's just amazing. Like, when else do we, apart from the Queen's birthday or now King Charles's birthday, when
Yeah.
else do we as a people of humanity stop and acknowledge that someone so significant has come into our world? And let alone, when do people who don't even know the fullness of the hope of Jesus sing it with us?
Yeah.
Like, I just love to think, God, you could choose this moment to stop that person in their tracks and actually show them the fullness of who you are through this carol. So I'm like, yeah, let's sing these Christmas carols and let's whip them out in June. I'm all for that.
All year round. Christmas carols all year round. Christmas trees all year round.
That's right. Well,
Well,
maybe.
maybe. There's something about Christmas that does bring this sense of wonder and awe. And as you
Mm,
referred to at the beginning as well, there is a chaos and a hecticness that comes with the end of the year
yeah.
and this season. And in this week's devotionals, I asked you to reflect on Silent Night.
Yes.
Um, and I love what you wrote because, again, this is a carol that we sing every year and we talk about Silent Night, but I don't think we actually think about what that means. And you do in your devotional. You talk about the silence, but how this is a night that is not described as being silent in the Bible.
No. And if anyone ever sits and thinks about, there's a woman who's in labor who's been on the back of a donkey. I didn't go to hospital on the back of a donkey. But let me tell you, if I did, it would not be silence that I am describing, because you're already physically feeling pretty uncomfortable. But really, the night we're celebrating is a beautiful young woman giving birth to a baby in an animal shelter. There are animals there. There is a woman giving birth. Nothing about that suggests silence to me. And yet, this is what we sing about every year. We sing Silent Night, Holy Night. The second part, I'm like, yeah, I get the Holy Night because this is when God is coming to earth, and that is amazing. The silent part, though, wow, like, how do we come to think of this night as being silent? And it has to be because we are in a moment of being in awe and floored by what God is doing in that moment, in that
Mm.
night. And it is a really incredible encouragement to us all that the silence isn't achieved by just standing still and letting everything else go around us still. The silence is achieved when we stop, we stand before God, and we put our full focus and our full heart and our full attention to Him and see what He's doing.
That in the hecticness and the chaos of this season, stopping and pausing is I don't know about you, Katie, but we're both mums of two kids. Stopping and pausing, you stop and you pause, hesitate and die. Really, in Christmas season, hesitate and die. You just have to
Yes.
keep going.
Yeah. That's so true.
So how do we as we are approaching this season, which is not just a season, it is such a
Constant.
significant moment that
Mm.
as Christians brings about the fulfillment of a prophecy
Mhm.
throughout the whole Old Testament. It is a significant part of the story that God is weaving on all of our hearts and all of our lives. It's the
Mm.
restoration of, like, this is the moment.
Yeah.
Um, but it's a moment that we lose in the hectic and chaos that Christmas has become in our world.
Yeah.
And yes, there is joy that we celebrate with the world globally, that humanity stops and
Yeah.
remembers this and sings with us.
Yeah.
But the season is chaotic. How do we stop and remember and truly remember and reflect
Mm.
on the moment?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's as dramatic as having to cancel everything in your calendar and having to put on your noise reducing headphones and locking yourself in a safe room or something. I don't think we have to think that dramatically, but I think there's a few things we can do which will make a significant difference for us. Because, as you say, Christmas is a hectic time. We've all got demands on our time and attention pretty much every minute of the day. But one of the things you can do is just be present in the moment. So, when you're at church and you are singing Christmas carols or when you are singing hymns, actually making sure you are actively working to be present. Be paying attention to the words you're
Mm.
singing. Be paying attention to the joy it is to sing alongside your brothers and sisters. Be thanking God genuinely for that moment and allowing God to speak to you and to work in your heart in that moment. So, when you go to church, be at church. Don't be writing other lists of the things you have to do when you leave church because,
Mm.
in reality, church is probably an hour, maybe hour and a half of your week. If we can't set aside that time to just be in the presence of God and his people, then it's something we need to really think seriously about what we're trying to achieve in that
Mhm.
time. The second thing I think is we can be intentional in what we're paying attention to because it's very tempting. You see things pop up on Facebook or you get the invites through school or whatever to go to 1,000,001 events. So choosing to be intentional that when you say you're going to go to something, actually go and again be present and be thankful and be encouraging your kids, not just to, look, we've just got to get through the next 2 hours. Maybe rather than saying, let's just get through the next 2 hours, maybe as a family you decide, you know what, at the end of this, when we're driving home, I really want everyone to share one thing you're thankful to God for that we just experienced together.
Mm.
So that again, you're intentionally heading into maybe a family gathering or maybe even a shopping excursion, but looking for how God's at work in those experiences because they're not things that we're going to run away from. They're not things that are going to magically be solved by doing online shopping, although you can for some
Yeah.
things. But you can be intentional about the experiences that are a part of the season and how you can still see God working through those moments and that time you get to share with others. And the other thing is, why not read the narrative of the
Mm.
Christmas story from the Bible? We like to read through Luke's gospel because it includes all of the narrative of Jesus being conceived and born. And we read that each Christmas together with the kids leading up to Christmas just to keep reminding us of the full picture of the story, not just the climax where Jesus is born, but
Yeah.
also the journey leading up to it and what that involves. I think there's some things we can all do. And, if you're someone who loves having Christmas music on in the background, make yourself a wonderful list of Christmas carols that will keep directing your heart and mind to Jesus as well.
Yeah. I love all of those ideas, Katie. And I hadn't thought about that going into the event, asking your kids, because I know that you have experienced, because we're mums and we go to a
Yeah.
bazillion events before, and
Yeah.
everybody goes to a bazillion events, but it's so easy to just go and get through it. You're right. Go and get through it and tick it off the list and just get through,
Yeah.
instead of actually intentionally looking for God in those connections and relationships and being thankful for that. And I think
Mm.
having that posture of thanksgiving throughout the whole year, that's something we can take away and apply all year round, not just at Christmas, but really intentionally being present and being mindful of
Mm.
God working is so important. And I loved that idea. For you,
Mhm.
Christmas, what are you thankful for this Christmas season?
Well, I think one of the things I'm thankful for is that my kids this year have been in a school community where they're being encouraged to think about it now. And so it means that we're having conversations already about what they're hoping Christmas is going to be like.
Mm,
And I love that that gives us the time to start talking about that Christmas isn't just about us getting the things we want. And Christmas is about celebrating who God is and his goodness. And so I think I'm looking forward to seeing how that conversation is going to continue and trying to encourage my kids to think beyond presents and beyond parties and the holidays, but actually, what does it look like to experience God's goodness
mm.
in a time that we'll get to share together? So I'm looking forward to that. As part of that, and Abby, you're very, very familiar with this, we have already got some Samaritan's Purse Operation Christmas Child boxes.
Yes.
Yes. So this has been the start of our conversation, actually. And the kids have been choosing the
Oh,
things that are going into the boxes and us praying for the kids the boxes are going to go to. And it's really helped my kids to frame Christmas as something more than about them,
yeah.
which is such a healthy mindset to help our kids get into. But it might not be an Operation Christmas Child box. For other people, there's the Kmart collections or there's the Anglicare food drives or there's lots of opportunities where we can actually share out of the goodness of God that we get to experience daily in his
Mm,
provisions with someone who's not as fortunate right now. They've still got God's goodness, but God's goodness might look like us actually sharing something with them.
yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
one thing. And I'm looking forward to, because we've moved into a new area, and each Christmas we try to cook gingerbread men cookies and then deliver them to our neighbors. And I'm looking forward to us being able to meet our new neighbors, which will be really great.
I love all of those things, Katie. And yeah, I love that Operation Christmas Child season is always before Christmas. It's always in
Yes.
October. And if you're listening, the context is I actually used to work for Samaritan's Purse. So Operation Christmas Child was a season that I was heavily involved in. And I actually had the privilege of delivering shoeboxes
Mm,
around the world and seeing the impact that a simple gift can have, not just physically on a child's life, but also spiritually, and seeing them be introduced to God through the shoebox. So it's always a great opportunity. But what I'm similar, I love engaging with my kids around conversation about
mm,
giving
mm,
because of the goodness of God and the grace that we have received, and giving to others because we have received
mm,
so much from God ourselves. And it's such I there's something different about Christmas with your children and
mm.
discovering it anew and having these conversations and seeing them connect with it. That's what I'm looking forward to. Those
Yeah.
conversations and light bulbs that flick on at Christmas
Mm,
when you're talking to them about Jesus and the amazing significance of Him in our life and what we have received because He came to
yeah.
heaven,
And it
to earth as a baby. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something that you do only if you've got kids. Like, it would be amazing to get a group of friends together and say to them, hey, what if we do this thing where we get these Operation Christmas Child boxes? Or another group of friends I know, they bring their secondhand, but in good condition handbags and fill it with sanitary products and things like that.
Yeah.
And they give them to the local women's shelter. There's lots of ways you can involve the people in your life in that practice of, sharing the goodness of
Mm.
God and his provision in your life with someone else, and start a conversation about, well, why would we do that? Like, why would we give stuff to
Yeah.
someone we don't know? Um and why, if I'm struggling to feed my own family, or if I'm struggling to pay the rent, what do I have to offer that's going to mean anything?
Mm. So much, so much. And as you said, there are so many ways for us to give out of a place of gratitude and thanksgiving.
Mm,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
and express that to those people around us. But even just like you said, making cookies for your neighbors is an
Yeah.
opportunity to connect with them and build relationship,
Mm,
and develop, um, show them experiences of God's love
mm.
through baking gingerbread and connecting with them and getting to know them, which is super exciting. That's why I love Christmas.
Yeah, it
I'm a
is
bit
pretty
of a
cool.
Christmas nut. If I could, I'd be wearing Christmas hat, but that was denied. Katie, I love chatting to you. I adore journeying through life with you.
Mm,
And if you are listening to this podcast or watching it, wherever you are, connecting with Real Hope, know that you too are journeying with me and Katie,
yeah.
through this conversation, through this podcast, through reading these devotionals. You are journeying with us. And you are not alone. You are a part of a community of people around the world, brothers and sisters in Christ, who are seeking to know and understand God better so that we can share experiences of his love with the people around us. And you are a part of that. So I'm so excited you are here. If you were encouraged by this chat, maybe you have a favorite Christmas carol that
Mm,
you would love to share with our team and reflect to our team on why it's your favorite Christmas carol. Would you go down below and click on the link, and it'll take you to a form where you can connect with our Real Hope team? I would love to hear about your favorite Christmas carol and why it's important to you. It's one of my favorite questions to ask people at Christmas time.
mm,
But also, don't forget that this is about sharing experiences of God's love with as many people as possible. So, as Katie has suggested and shared amazing ideas, this is an opportunity for you to go out into your community, have conversations with people around you that you do life with about the importance of our Saviour King in their life and what Christmas means to them. What a great conversation starter.
mhm.
Friend, this Christmas season is not yet done. There are many more conversations to be had. And so I'm looking forward to joining with you next week as I actually sit down and chat with Bob Mendelsohn about the genealogy of Christ. It is an amazing conversation. You don't want to miss it. So I'm looking forward to seeing you here next week on the next episode of Real Hope Conversations.